So what we've done is we've asked 5 supporters from different parts of the country to join me in conversation here to give you an idea of what they normally do and what they ended up doing last year. There will be a time for questions in this session, so please do type them into the chat and Lauren will collate them. And like the last section, this has been captioned so you don't miss anything. So our supporters are David Crippen from the Inverness Christian Aid Group, Fiona Watt from Greenbank Church in Edinburgh, Bryce Calder, who is the minister at Motherwell St Mary's, and Russell and Luke Brown, who are members at Netherley and Stamperland and part of the Clarkston Christian Aid Group on the south side of Glasgow. And the first question to our panel is going to be simply, can you tell us what your group normally gets up to at Christian Aid Week and beyond? And Bryce, could I invite you to come on and answer that question first, please?
Unmuted. Excellent, perfect. Good morning, folks. It's great to be involved this morning. Normally what we would do is, as a church, we would be involved with the rest of the churches in the Motherwell group of Christian Aid. And we would do things like the sponsored walk, we'd have an annual concert, we'd be involved in door-to-door pancake events, lots of ordinary things that we do together with other churches that are just so important and raise so much money and fellowship. But also we, as a specific church, we also hold a Christian Aid service with a specific Christian Aid theme once a year, and very often we would have guest speakers from Christian Aid come to speak at that service, and that would have a retiring offering around that service, which would be a way of generating funds as well as awareness of global justice issues and the work of Christian Aid. But about a decade ago, we decided as a church that rather than this just being something for adults, and that so often happens in churches, things become the responsibility and the reserve of adults. We thought, global justice issues are really important too, and part of the thinking of our young people. And we're blessed to have a lot of young people in the church. And we set up a group called CAST, Christian Aid Support Group, which has sometimes, it's around about 15, sometimes slightly more, sometimes less young people in it each year. And they meet once a month for a lunch after church, and they speak about global justice issues. They speak about the work of Christian Aid, and they also help to think up and to run specific fundraising events within the church. And young people are brilliant at coming up with the events. And but the conversation sometimes in the group is what's just as important as hearing young people speak about these issues that are just so vital to our life, our world today. So yeah, these are the things that we normally do, things we do in common with churches, our Christian Aid Sunday, and our CAST group, Christian Aid Support Group, which meets throughout the year, once a month, and runs events throughout the year. And I think all in all, we would raise, as a church, around about £4,500 a year for Christian Aid through all these various different means.
Fantastic. Thank you, Bryce. That is certainly a really good, strong story of getting young people involved. Fiona, could I come to you next, please, and you can tell us what usually happens at Greenbank?
Right, well, we have a group of 5 local churches in the Morningside and Fairmile Head area of Edinburgh, and throughout the year we have a few joint events. We've got an autumn coffee morning. We usually have something like a film night or a speaker, particularly if it's in response to, say, a disaster appeal from Christian Aid. For Christian Aid Week, we do our own house-to-house collections, but we have a joint flyer that goes in with all the envelopes in the area, giving 3 local shops that have agreed to be drop-off points for envelopes that people were out when the collector came or whatever. And we also advertise on the back of that our annual spring fair, which we hold jointly a week or two after Christian Aid Week. This is coffee stalls, maybe an exhibition of local interest, sometimes a choir recital. That's usually quite successful. Some of us are also involved with our neighbouring group in their large book sale for Christian Aid Week. And one of the plus points of that is that we get leftover books for our stall at our spring fair. So that's the way it would normally go. As a church, we raise about £4,000 with house-to-house collections. And all our other events with the local group throughout the year, our joint events would maybe raise another couple of thousand, and then the other churches have their own house-to-house.
Great, thank you so much, Fiona. David, in Inverness, would you like to tell us what you normally do?
David, you're on mute. Could you unmute? Excellent.
I was all ready to unmute and I just forgot to do it. Sorry. Yes, I'm wearing two hats, the rep for my own church, Crown Church in Inverness, and also the interim convener for the Inverness Christian Aid Group, which is a group of about 24 churches, multi-denominational. Some, as you can imagine, quite small rural churches, some in small towns around Inverness, and some larger churches within Inverness. I think four or five of the churches do door-to-door collection in normal years. Very much standard door-to-door collection, I think, delivering and collecting from the houses. And in our case, in Crown Church, we have quite a compact parish and aim to deliver and collect from potentially every house in the parish. As well as that, though, other churches and ourselves do the usual things: coffee mornings, plant stalls, soup lunches, pew collections, of course. And one of the things that increases our profile is to take part in a charity Christmas card sale, which takes place in Inverness every year. And it's the sort of thing where all the charities have their cards out on the stall every day for a couple of weeks. And the different charities take their turn to man the stall, or woman the stall is more likely in our case. So that is good for profile raising. We, as a group, we raise during Christian Aid Week about 20,000, about 25,000 altogether. We as a church managed to reach what seems to be quite a common sum of 4,000 a year or thereabouts. One or two of the other churches do better than that. And just a final thing to say that one of the churches in particular, and credit where credit's due, I think I may as well name it, Inch's Church, does very well for us in terms of social events and fundraising as well. And that, of course, is an important thing in bringing everyone together. So that's what we normally do.
Lovely, thank you, David. And Russell, do you want to tell us a wee bit about what the Clarkson Committee get up to in a year?
Yes, good morning everybody. In a normal year, in a non-pandemic year, our first event would be an art exhibition and sale. That's normally held the second weekend in March. And what happens is the artists who make a sale give a third, or at least a third, to the charity. And then after that would be May, the Christian Aid Week, the door-to-door drop-off and collect. And then we'd move on to October. We would have a sponsored swim. the local swimming baths, Eastwood Baths. And then throughout the year, we would, like those before me, we'd have the usual coffee mornings, we have a big breakfast. One lady done a solo art show in 2019, which was very successful. She raised £750. And during the course of the year, the group, there's 5 of us, 5 churches, the group would expect to raise in a normal year about 25,000, much like David before me.
Excellent. Thank you, Russell. Thank you all. So some really, really good ideas there. Obviously, last year was slightly different. So, Fiona, could I come to you first, please? Could you maybe tell us how Greenbank did things slightly differently last year, please?
Well, we didn't go for the separate Just Giving page. We just put out an appeal to the congregation and asked them to donate directly to Christian Aid. I sent around an e-envelope to our 50 or so collectors, our normal collectors, with a video message and asked them to spread the word. So it's difficult to tell how much was raised just by direct donations. But an unexpected opportunity came up, and we had a cyber plant sale. One of the members at Greenbank Church, John Mowat, has run a plant stall for our spring fair for about 15 years. It takes quite a lot of preparation, obviously, and he had already started with this prior to lockdown. And all the plants were in his greenhouse happily growing away with no spring fair coming up to sell them at. Bedding plants, tomato plants, that kind of thing. So he got in touch to say what was he going to do about this, and would there be a possibility of selling these online. Our minister was very happy to send out information with the weekly newsletter that he's done since the start of the pandemic. And John compiled a catalogue, basically, with pictures from the internet and prices for the plants. And we sent that out. It was round about Christian Aid Week time, because that was obviously when the plants were maturing at the end of May. And then the orders started flooding in. Well, we could have sold the plants several times over. The garden centres were still shut. And John's son was able to deliver the plants to people's doorsteps with his electric cargo bike, and many people donated on top of the suggested price of the plants. Not everybody got what they ordered, and some people got things that they didn't order, and it was a bit of a challenge to sort it all out. However, it was overall very successful, and we took payment on delivery, and some people sent money to the church bank account to be passed on. And overall, John thought he had about £400 of plants that he would sell at the stall, and we raised £600 from it. So we're very pleased with that. And as I say, it was just an opportunity that fell into our laps at the time.
Great, thank you to Fiona and to everybody involved in that. That is a really novel way of raising money. David, I'm going to come to you next now. I'm sure that when you're normally raising £20,000 from house to house, there was no way you could replace that, but I do believe you still raised a fantastic sum of money through a different means. Do you want to tell us a wee bit about that?
Yes, well, one of the things about the lockdown situation is, of course, it's harder to know what individual churches did. I understand that some of our churches did e-cards, but the main thing that we did was that we did set up a Just Giving page under the umbrella of the Christian Aid main campaign. And this was with help from Charlie Meiklejohn. And if anyone else is wanting to do that, certainly the help from Christian Aid is very, very excellent. I suppose I relied on church reps then to publicise the Just Giving page amongst their congregations. I also created a poster which could be printed in larger size for notice boards, or kind of medium size for my idea was that people would pin them to their garden gates and so on. And there's a small size that could be discreetly put in a safe place in your car window. And the poster, in fact, it appeared in the credits at the beginning of this seminar. It included the web address and also the QR code for the Just Giving page, with the idea that people could scan it with their phone and just donate there and then. Of course, I have no idea what the impact of that was really. Now, I was able to do all this from my laptop because, in fact, I wasn't in Inverness. I was stuck down in Edinburgh during the first lockdown for many weeks. And but of course, it was perfectly possible to set up the Just Giving page. It worked well, very easy to set up. Advantages are for treasurers that there is nearly all the work is done for you, because the collection of the money and indeed gift aid slips, Just Giving allows gift aid to be given very efficiently, but of course you don't have to bother with all the slips and sending them in and so on, checking that they're all filled up correctly and so on. So that was all very easy. We raised yes, £6,250 with the Just Giving page, which was good, yes, but and I shouldn't minimise the generosity of the people who gave. We did have the target of 20,000 because that's what we raise normally in Christian Aid Week as a group. So you know, the need is there, and that had to be the target. Of course, we knew we wouldn't reach it, and which brings me to one of the issues, I think, was that that 6,000 was raised from 142 very generous donors, which of course is a lot less than we would have had donations from in a normal year, a lot fewer people. And so I think it's because we couldn't really get beyond church members, and indeed we couldn't get to by any means all church members by this means. And I think we would have to up our game there as far as communication of the whole thing goes. But certainly it was very easy to do, and I would encourage anyone to try it. Even if you're doing other things, it's worth setting up the Just Giving page. There are developments that one could try. I did try last April, May, to refine the page to take us down to a different level of the individual churches feeding into the group page, feeding into Christian Aid, and that would have been good for accountability and motivation and so on. And I might well try that this coming year. But yeah, easily done and well worth doing, I think.
Great, thanks, David. Luke, I'm going to come to you now if you were able to tell us a wee bit about what you did differently this year.
Yeah, good morning. So my dad has been wanting me to do the West End Way for a few months back, and we decided that we were going to do it in October, and then the sponsored swim got cancelled, as my dad said. So he decided, he went on a meeting and put forward the idea that we should do the walk for Christian Aid for charity. And so he came down and he was like, right, we're doing this for charity. So we're doing it for Christian Aid. So we went into town and we got camping equipment and we set up a Just Giving page with Warren's help, and we set a £1,000 target, and we set off on Friday the 9th of October at 7 AM from Mulgai, and we spent 4 nights wild camping and 3 nights at organised campsites. And then we arrived the following Friday at 4 PM, and we got a meal in Fort William before going back to Queen Street and getting home. As I said, we set a £1,000 target, and we managed to raise £2,826. That's along with gift aid, so we've over doubled that target. That's about it, really.
Excellent, thank you so much. And can I just ask, did you get wet at all?
Yeah, we got wet one night. We spent about 2 or 3 days walking up Loch Lomond, and it rained a wee bit one night. It wasn't like heavy, but we did get a wee bit of rain. But other than that, it was pretty much dry most of the way.
Good, excellent. That's such an innovative thing, and I'm glad you enjoyed it into the bargain. Bryce, can I come to you now, please? What did you do last year?
Hi there. We did one or two different things. First of all, we had our Christian Aid service as we would normally do, but like everything else, it was online this year. And but we still had the Christian Aid service in which we promoted the work of Christian Aid. We also made a big display around the kind of church gates and fences. We asked people a few weeks before the Christian Aid service if they would copy their hands, decorate their hands and send a picture in, and someone laminated them all, and we made a Christian Aid display at the centre of our gates, all about focusing on Christian Aid and helping hands and working together. We're very fortunate to be in a church that's near a park, so loads of people are walking near the church, and so it was a display that people could see. It didn't raise money, but it raised awareness of Christian Aid. In terms of raising money, what we did, like other churches, was to set up a Just Giving page, which I found actually fairly straightforward to set up. And the wonderful thing was that we didn't have to deal with any money, because if you set up a Just Giving page with a global organisation like Christian Aid, you can link in to the global organisation, and so all the money that we were able to raise went directly to Christian Aid. So that was absolutely fantastic. I'm new to Just Giving, but I was really surprised at how easy it was and how convenient a method it was to raise money. What we did was we asked our folks not just to give, but also if they wanted to take part in some events. And one of the events was the photographing yourself or your family in your Christian Aid red t-shirts. I think you saw some of the pictures at the beginning of today's proceedings that showed some of the families sending in their pictures. Another one we did was, when this particularly was fun amongst a lot of our younger people, it was a Keep Fit challenge. And I say it amongst our younger people because some of the things were quite energetic that were involved in the Keep Fit challenge. But remember, this was right at the very beginning of lockdown. People weren't able to go out and about. Keep Fit was something that was being promoted. So we had this fun Keep Fit challenge, and people also sent in pictures of themselves doing Keep Fit. And for all the different activities they did, they contributed money to Christian Aid. So we had the Keep Fit challenge, and we had the display. We had our service as normal. I was speaking yesterday to our organiser in the church, who is a very, very wise person, and what she said was that the key to the whole of this was communication. Right from the very beginning of our lockdown services, what we've tried to do as a church family is to share information about one another, about events, keep the family together. And so Christian Aid would normally be a part of what we do as a church family. So we talked about Christian Aid. It came into our church family news, and it also went onto our website. And for those in the church family who don't have computers, a number of them listen to the services on the telephone, so they were able to get that information through that. And some who don't have any of these means of communication, elders identified quite early who these folks were, and so all the family news, including Christian Aid family news, was shared to folks by phone calls from elders. So we were able to communicate that Christian Aid was important. It was a vital year. We couldn't do our normal things, but there were ways in which people could give, and so the message got out there, and people gave, and we didn't. I think we exceeded my expectation. I set a target, an indiscriminate target of £500, and we raised 3,000, and then about another £600 in gift aid. So maybe just slightly less we would get in a normal year, but hey, near enough. and lots of fun was had, and lots of information about Christian Aid and global justice was shared.
Fantastic. Thank you, Bryce.
Thank
I
you.
think we've got so many great ideas, and the most positive thing about them all is they seem to be things which people enjoy doing. Thank you for typing questions into the chat. Lauren is watching them. Lauren, have you got questions that you would like to pose to anybody on the panel?
Yeah, there's quite a few different questions and comments coming through here on the chat, and people sharing some encouragements and things that they did as well. There have been a couple of questions though that I might start by asking you, Val, just about Just Giving and how that works in terms of the any sort of admin fee. Would you be able to explain that to everyone here, Val?
Yes, I mean, Christian Aid uses Just Giving as a platform, and there is an admin fee that goes alongside that. My understanding it's 1.9% of the donation plus 20 pence. I see in the chat Crispin has explained how you can turn that off. However, it does save a huge amount of admin time our end, in that, you know, we are not processing checks or taking money to the bank or processing gift aid slips in the same way that we would be. So actually we are more than happy with that fee because of the service that we get in return for that, because if you put your or your church's OR number in the reference, then that money just automatically comes into Christian Aid and is assigned to your church.
Great, thank you, Val. Just having a look through the questions here. A question that I had for Fiona was, what was your most popular plant at the sale? Was there one that everyone was after, the most sought after plant perhaps?
Well, I'm going to have to say that I don't know that, because I didn't work out the spreadsheet of what all the plants were and what all the requests were. I do know that I got one or two things that I wasn't expecting. I got some African daisies, which I would certainly want to have again, because I've never had these before, and they lasted right through till about November. I also got a couple of tomato plants. I haven't grown tomato plants before, and it did end up as green tomato chutney, but you know, it was something fun to do in lockdown. So I'm sorry, I've not answered your question directly.
No, that's great. That sounds like an interesting spread that you had there. The next question I'm going to ask Bryce about. You seem to have had a real variety of different people involved in Christian Aid Week and what you did last year. How did you manage to get so many young people involved in your efforts?
I mean, it stretches back, as I say, I think about 10 years ago, we realised that folks involved in Christian Aid in the church were all older, and that the issues of global justice are not something that are exclusively the kind of the realm and the concern of older folks. And we know that younger people of all generations are interested in justice in our world, from which we grew the CAST group, Christian Aid Support Group. We just asked young people if they would like to be involved. What we did was we asked folks from P6 onwards. So the CAST group has folks as young as P6, and it has people who are students, and it's intergenerational in the sense too that our Christian Aid Organisers on the group, and one or two of our youth leaders are on the group. And I think central to that, like a lot of things that people find helpful in church, is there's food involved. There's a lunch, there's fun discussion, there's a sharing of really important issues, but also ideas about how to raise funds. Young people love all these things, so it's a fun thing to be involved in, and people want to join CAST. When people get the right age, we find some people can move on, go to become students, or can't continue in their membership of CAST anymore. We find that others want to join because they've heard it's a great group to be involved in. It's a fun group to be involved in, and hey, that's what it's about, isn't it? With young people being relevant, being fun, and feeling that you're able to do something vital and important, and that you are a huge part of the church family. It's great. Really, really good. Our group also, as well as doing the things I talked about, also kind of feedback regularly into church services. They'll talk about things that are coming up or things I've been talking about, and we have a kind of display notice board in the church that they'll kind of populate with various topics and ideas as well. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Is that
Thank you,
helpful?
Bryce. That's, yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm just noticing the time. Unfortunately, it looks like we're going to have to move into the next section. And interestingly enough, I've seen a couple of questions about perhaps what format Christian Aid Week 2021 will take, what will be happening with the bridge crosses, and those are things that we're going to move on to talk about in the next section of the gathering. So I will hand over to Val to introduce that.
Yep, I'm just going to wrap this up. I'm just going to ask our panel members to say a couple of words. What would you say to someone considering trying something new this year? Russell.
Just don't be put off, just go for it. And at the end of the day, you're helping people for an absolutely brilliant cause. And I mean, you can think of Ethiopia and all the trials that they're going through, and just go for it and don't worry about how much you make. If it's £50, that's great. It's a drop. It might be a drop in the ocean, but it's the drops that make the ocean. So just go out and go for it.
Great, thank you. David?
Yes, as far as Just Giving goes, I would echo that. Just go for it. It's really quite easy to do, and Christian Aid will help you if you have any issues. And I would hope this next year to yes, add the extra level to the Just Giving structure. And if perhaps I could say that if anyone wants to discuss that, because there are some factors to be aware of, and to some extent you're trying to shoehorn what I wanted to do anyway into the Just Giving structure. But if anyone wants to discuss it with me by email or whatever, I'd be happy to do that, maybe contacting me via Christian Aid.
Thanks. Thanks, David.
Okay.
That would be great. No, that's a really generous offer. Thank you. If anyone would like to take David up on that. Fiona, have you got a couple of words just to encourage people trying something new?
Yeah, if an opportunity comes along, just think about how you could do it. There's an awful lot of goodwill around Christian Aid, and people will understand that it doesn't always run smoothly or that your plans might change, but they'll be quite willing to take part.
Thanks, Fiona. And final words, Bryce?
Yeah, all I would say is just keep Christian Aid central to your church life as you would normally do. Share the work of Christian Aid, and if you want to be involved in fundraising, it is much easier than you might think. Things like Just Giving, and I found it a lot more straightforward. And I do, like Fiona said a moment ago, people have a huge amount of goodwill for Christian Aid and realise the importance of the work that Christian Aid does. And so if you give opportunities like Just Giving, they will respond.
Fantastic. Thank you to you all. We hugely appreciate your efforts over the last year and years.